Good evening, everyone. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-10, and the regulations governing remote meetings, NJAC 5:39-1.5, I hereby announce that adequate notice and electronic notice of this meeting was provided in a notice dated January 6, 2021, and is amended by Resolution 2021-153A dated June 15, 2021, that was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, posted on the bulletin board and on the main access door to Township Hall, filed in the clerk's office, and posted on the Township website, www.holmdeltownship.com. Mayor Bontempo?
Here.
Ms. Weber?
Here.
Mr. Critelli?
Here.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Here.
Mr. Santana?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Wendy. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight for joining us. Before we kick off our formal agenda, I have a special proclamation presentation. So I'd like to take a moment, actually right now, to recognize 7 Holmdel High School students who have joined us at the meeting this evening. Holmdel High School students, Carly Joe, Bill Zhang, Kathleen Antonakakis, Rayon Zhao, Sean Tong, Ayan Latif, Brandon Liao, who all participated in the virtual research competition at the New Jersey Academy of Sciences 66th Annual Symposium. Each was a winner in their specific category. The New Jersey Academy of Science provides a forum where junior and senior scientists can interact, work together, and learn from one another. These students came together virtually to exchange scientific ideas, make presentations in front of their peers, as well as professional scientists and researchers. Holmdel has a storied history of scientific exploration, discovery, and innovation. For that reason, we cannot be more proud in what you have accomplished with these student scientists representing our community at the Academy this year. Congratulations to your individual achievements, and thank you for serving as ambassadors for our township to the greater New Jersey scientific community. I'd like to read the proclamation, and then once I read it, I'll have each of the students come up and join us for a picture in front. This one's on. Is it on? Thank you. Whereas the 66th Annual Symposium of the New Jersey Academy of Sciences was held virtually this year, and the winners were announced on May 15, 2021, and whereas the symposium includes 12 categories, including topical reviews, biochemistry, cell molecular biology, earth science, health and medicine, physics, botany, ecology, engineering, math, computational, microbiology, and psychology, and whereas Holmdel students participated in the topical reviews, health and medicine, math and computational sciences, microbiologies, and psychology categories, and whereas Carly Zhou placed first in the topical reviews category, and whereas Bill Zhang placed third in the health and medicine category, and whereas Kathleen Antonakakis placed second in the microbiology category, whereas Rayon Zhao placed third in the microbiology category, and Sina Tang and Ayan Latif tied for third place in the math and computational sciences category. And Brandon Lau placed first in the psychology category. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Township Committee, Township of Holmdel, that sincere congratulations be given to Carly, Bill, Cheyenne, Ayan, Kathleen, Ryan, and Brandon for their outstanding scholastic achievement. Be it further resolved that the Township Committee wishes the Holmdel High School participants, the New Jersey Academy of Science 66th Annual Symposium, continued success in future endeavors, with confidence that they will serve as role models and continue to make improvements for important contributions to society. I would also like to thank Dr. Blaha for doing an amazing job with these students. This is not the first time the Township Committee has been able to recognize her students. She does an amazing job. I saw it firsthand years ago. We missed it last year because of the pandemic. I'm glad we're able to get this before the school year ends and have your students come tonight. So with that being said, I'd like the students who just want to come up so I can present each with a proclamation. Yeah.
Dr. Blaha.
For sure.
Josephine, I can say.
What's going on? That's my job, I know.
Picture got it.
Congratulations.
Oh,
I'll wave, I'll shake the hands. Hop up, yeah, you guys hop up there. How we go?
I think, great job. I think they should be down.
Hey, all right, you guys go down and we'll go
We
behind
should
you.
be
How
up
about
here.
that? That's
Let's
better.
go, let's go.
You're just so tall. Be behind the short one. There we go.
Great. Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
Trying to catch me in doing something?
You guys are welcome to stay if you'd like to attend the meeting, but you can leave right now.
Congratulations.
Congratulations again, guys. So before we kick in, we're going to do the presentation now?
yes.
Okay.
Definitely a tough act to follow. And realizing that I now stand between you and your work, I'm trying to make it as brief as I can. So my name is Lisa Hibbs. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Commercial Utility Consultants. We were awarded the energy consultant work for sustainable. So we are the energy consultant awarded the contract for Sustainable Monmouth Alliance's energy aggregation program. So you all passed a resolution to join that cooperative back in November of 2020. So it took that long to get the RFP out on the streets for the Sustainable Monmouth Alliance to review those responses and to make their award. So I'm just here to touch base with you as you move forward with adopting an ordinance that officially authorizes you to establish a GEA program. It in no way obligates you to establish, to actually run a program. It just authorizes you to do so. Without the ordinance, you would not be able to move forward with the rest of the group in Sustainable Monmouth. So just to recap, I'm not sure how long it's been since you've had this presentation, but I wanted to start with sort of how things work in the energy industry outside of this program, and then what this program changes within that. So before 1999, New Jersey was not deregulated. So our delivery our generation, and the utility company sort of acted as one, with us being tethered to the two of those. In 1999, the state decided that they would deregulate and add the suppliers into the equation. So the only thing that happens in the government energy aggregation program is we replace the state-selected suppliers with a supplier for the program. So this just gives residents an option that they wouldn't have outside of your government energy aggregation program. They are not obligated to stay in. They are free to come and go as they please, no fees, no penalties for participating or not participating. So again, just want to make it clear that the only thing we're changing is the supplier. Utility stays the same, generation responsibilities as far as renewables remain the same. Only thing that we're changing up is the supplier. So I mentioned that the state selects our suppliers right now. So unless you have an energy aggregation program or residents have an individual contract with their own third-party supplier, we're defaulted to the suppliers selected by the state at their annual auction every February. Those suppliers take effect every June of that same year. And right now, our BGS auction winners in 2021 are on the screen. So right now, residents living in the state that are on BGS supply, these are the generators supplying that electricity. Okay, so if people decide not to participate in the program, it isn't like their savings is going back to JCP&L. The savings is going back to these guys. So the aggregation process works in parallel to the state's process. So again, BGS auctions held every February, sets the utilities default rate. New rates take effect in June of each year, and we refer to that as the utility default rate. New Jersey Administrative Code Title 14, Chapter 4, Subchapter 6 prescribes what we're allowed to do in a GEA program and what we're not allowed to do within that GEA program. So community energy aggregation, just a friendlier way of saying government energy aggregation, replaces the default rate with a new price based on the community's local usage. So your usage will be combined with 7 other municipalities' usage as part of that Sustainable Monmouth group. So we bulk purchase electricity from a third-party supplier. Communities are able to obtain rate reductions on their energy costs. Month-to-month savings is not guaranteed. Unless you ask for a BGS guaranteed price, which then builds in risk on the part of the supplier, thus canceling out pretty much your options for savings. But you can certainly ask for it. So consumer protections are associated with our program that are not usually found in an individual contract. We'll cover that in a second. So the process is this. You've already passed your resolution to join a co-op. We're now at the stage where we pass the ordinance to establish your individual program for Township of Holmdel as part of that group. So in addition to that, there's a resolution that you can adopt that allows you to sign a supplier services agreement should we be successful at auction, and we can provide that to you as well. So CUC and our subcontractors at Concord Energy Services prepare all of the bid documents. That's your RFP, that's your supplier services agreement. We file all of the ordinances, resolutions, cooperative pricing agreements, all of the paperwork necessary to govern your program. Energy auction and selection of the winning bidder. We're at the step now where we're just trying to get the ordinances passed and some agreements signed that allow us to gain access to everyone's usage from JCP&L. So we start with summary usage. It's not specific to any specific residence account. It's just basically, here is the number of eligible residents within a specific community. Here's their annual usage, and it's an aggregate. It's a big number. We'll then combine all of those numbers together for all 8 towns, and we'll go out to auction. Right now, we're thinking about September, but that will depend on how quickly everyone can get their ordinances completed and their documents signed and filings with the state. So the energy auction bid for the program rate must be lower than the utility's BGS rate at the time of the auction, unless, and here's the caveat, you are offering additional renewable. The The administrative code does allow you to set a higher rate than the BGS rate. We don't recommend that. It creates, as you can imagine, while doing something good for the environment, constituents may not understand, residents may not understand that they're now paying more for their electricity. So you just need to strike that balance between what you want, as your priority. Is it the savings or is it the renewable? You can achieve both. Just wanted to keep that in mind. The ordinance that Red Bank and a couple of others passed specifically states that they can set a rate that is higher than the BGS rate. The ordinance I believe that you're looking at tonight does not have that as part of.
I'll confirm that's the case, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll begin outreach to residents about the program after you have a successful auction. So that would be, right now we're looking at potentially a March start for residents in the program, provided that we're successful in the September-October timeframe. So we believe that education early on is key to the success of any GEA program. The more information that you can get out early, the better and the easier the transition, the more that residents understand, yes, it is an opt-out program. That means that they have to actively do something in order to not be included. We try to make that process as easy as possible. There's a mailing that the BPU mandates goes out to every eligible resident. And by eligible, I mean anyone that's not on a third-party supply contract of their own and anyone that does not have a net meter associated with solar panels. So those folks are swept out from the beginning, only because we do not want to interfere with the solar customer's credits, nor do we want an individual contract to end early and have a resident penalized for ending that contract prior to term. So we do public outreach meetings, we provide videos, those can be made available English, Spanish, any other languages you need those in. We also create a customized web page. This would be for the Sustainable Monmouth Alliance, and all of your program documents would be found there along with that video. And we would repeat the auction process toward the conclusion of whatever initial contract term we've got. So when a supplier is awarded, there's an initial 30-day opt-out period. So before any accounts are transferred over into the program, residents are given 30 days to make a decision as to whether they want to participate or not. In that mailing that I mentioned, there is a response card. Residents can just fill that out, return that. There's also an 800 number that they can call if they press option 1 that connects them directly to someone that will opt them out. They will not discuss the program. They will not hard sell. They will just opt the resident out. There's also another option where residents, if they press, I think it's 3, they'll get to a representative that can actually answer questions about the program. There's also a permanent opt-out feature. So if someone decides, not only do I not want to participate in this GEA program this round, but should Holmdel and Sustainable Monmouth do this program again, I don't want to be automatically included. There is a way for them to permanently opt out. Doesn't mean they can't opt back in. It just means that they would not be included on that eligible list and automatically opted in. We have found that that helps out a lot. So again, we've got the mail return, we've got an 800 number. Folks can also opt out on the website. That Sustainable Monmouth webpage, there's a feature there where folks can opt in and out. I mentioned the initial 30-day opt-out period. Before accounts are sort of moved over with the new supplier. Residents can still opt out whenever they want to without fear of penalty or fines. Okay, so they're free to come and go even after that 30-day opt-out period. The program only includes eligible residents. We sort of covered that already, not with a third-party supplier and who don't have net meters associated with solar. All current services, including delivery, meter reads, billing, payment processing, emergency services, lines go down, you still call JCP&L. It has nothing to do with the GEA program. Again, all we did was change the supplier. We did nothing to change the relationship with a resident and the utility. So residents continue to call their utility for service-related questions and outages, still receiving one bill every month from JCP&L. We require consolidated billing versus dual billing. Sometimes if folks get into an individual contract, they end up with two different bills, one for the utility delivery and one for the supply through the third-party supplier. Budget billing is offered through this program. There are no fees to be part of the program. No one from the program will be calling or knocking on doors. So this has happened before. I'm imagining it will happen again. As soon as third-party suppliers figure out that you have a GEA program, they can and have door knocked and said, "Hi, I'm with Holmdel's energy program. I just need a copy of your bill in order to enroll you." They also phone call saying the same. No one from Sustainable Monmouth Alliance's energy aggregation program will call or door knock. The only time we will call is in response to a call that we receive. Okay. So here's a sample bill, and I just wanted to bring this up because the bill remains the same. The only thing that changes is where it says basic generation service, it would say supplier XYZ, whoever is awarded the contract for the program. On the monthly bill is also in the message section will be a note that says, had you been with the basic generation service, here's the rate you would have paid. So folks could do that calculation. We also have on our website the ability for residents to track their savings through the program without having to keep their own spreadsheet or sort of do the math on each bill. So once the program is up and running, residents would have access to that as well. So I talked about consumer protections. In addition to the no door knocking, no phone calling, there's no predatory contracting. And by this, I mean that there's no teaser rate. It's not like we say, "Hi, guys, going to pay 7 cents for the first 3 months, then it's going to bounce to 8.5 cents for the next 3. And then, you know, by month number 10, you're paying 16 cents. That's not the way this works. This is a fixed rate contract. In other words, once we're successful at auction and an award is made and the price is set, that price is the price. No matter how many residents opt out, no matter what happens in the market, that price is the price through the term of the contract. There are no fees of any kind to participate or not participate. And we have protections against seasonal or short-term fixed and then variable rate contracts. So it's a reduced rate, allows for some budget stability, and we've got flexibility for residents to opt in, opt out. Again, this is just an option. Should a resident get a postcard in the mail that says, "Hi, we have this really great rate with supplier B for a 3-month term," they're more than welcome to go take advantage of that 3-month contract and then swing back into our program. Again, it's flexibility for the resident to just have another option. All current services, again, provided by the utility. Residents continue to receive one bill. Budget billing or equal payment plans are offered. All outreach is done by our team, so we're not going to, you'll see my face today and never see me again. No, you'll likely see me at the outreach meetings just to make sure that everything is being done to spec. And again, we're not leaving this up to the supplier to come and talk about the program. Reporting tool for the participating municipalities with the option for residents. Again, this is a way for residents to track their savings online. We provide each municipality with their own login. You will not be able to see individual savings, but you will see the aggregate savings for Holmdel Township. So residents can opt in and opt out. They can select different, if you have, say, a 40% renewable and a 100% renewable option, they can flip between those two options online. They can also call us and do that over the phone. So renewable energy aggregation, so the RGEA. This is important if you are looking for sustainable Jersey points. Sustainable Monmouth Alliance is set up to offer those points. Again, some of the ordinances passed by a couple of the towns are very aggressive. They go beyond what's required for sustainable Jersey points. Just keep that in mind. We are more than happy to separate out different municipalities into different bid groups when we go out to auction so that everyone is getting what they need to meet their individual needs as a municipality while also meeting the goals of Sustainable Monmouth. So that's something that I wanted to make sure that you all know. This is something that you can say, hey, CUC, this is what Holmdel wants. And and we'll make sure that that's what you get. So RGA programs enable municipalities to influence the source of electricity supply to the region. So you can stay within the PJM region, you can make it New Jersey specific. The more specific you get, the more expensive the electricity supply gets. So your delta in savings diminishes. So I just wanted to make you mindful of that. It does provide environmental benefits. Cost savings over the PTC, again, is not mandated. Potential to earn points with Sustainable Jersey through an RGEA program. So here's where we are right now. So you can't see this, sorry. So right now we're at 23.5% renewable. That's required. That's baked in. That's what we call the renewable portfolio standard requirement. So it goes up incrementally over the next several years, 2 decades, in fact. So by 2030, the state will be at 52.5% renewable. So you can play with those numbers as you see fit. Right now, 30 Sustainable Jersey points if you go 10% above the RPS standard right now. You get 45 points if you go 20% above. Just things to keep in mind as you make decisions and as we make decisions as a co-op. The next slide, I'm just going to mention, this was a program that we put together for one of our other co-ops. They have the standard default rate at the basic RPS required. They allow their residents, they offer their residents the option to opt up into a 100% renewable product. And they've seen a 12% opt-in rate to that 100%. We are working with Sustainable Jersey to give Sustainable Jersey points for this kind of program. They are not available, though, at this point in time. All right, so Red Bank serves as your lead agency for the Sustainable Monmouth Alliance. Lead agency adopts the resolution to establish the program. You have already adopted your resolution to join. CUC provides all the documents to the municipalities. And once you pass the ordinance, that then becomes time to sign the agreement between the township and the consultants, between the township and JCP&L, just so that we can have that gateway to this summary usage data for the auction, and also the agreement that establishes the co-op officially with Department of Community Affairs. And then we hold the auction. So this is just some other cooperative experience because you haven't met us yet. We were just awarded based on the pricing that we submitted. Not sure how much you know about CUC and Concord, but we manage 5 co-ops right now, the largest in the state. And those co-ops have grown over the years. So Morris Area Energy Co-op started with 5 towns. They are now up to 14 or 15. Sussex Warren, same, they started with 7. They are now up in the 13 range. The Hunterdon Co-op started with 3 towns. They are now up to 16. So you are starting with 8, and I guarantee you, you will not be at 8 for long. Early adopters that you are. Folks will hear the good things and will pile on thereafter. We have the Monmouth Area Energy Cooperative, which was actually a spinoff of a co-op that Howell had back in the day. And Gloucester County has contracted with us to help them get their program started. Bergen County, we have meetings with them July 27th and 29th to get their program off the ground. So enough about us. Do you have any questions about next steps, wants, wishes, needs?
What is generally the contract term?
Contract terms vary. We like the 12 to 24 month range. We cannot have a contract in place for longer than 24 months as mandated by the administrative code. But the sweet spot can be, depending on when we go out to auction, it could be a 13-month contract, it could be a 16-month contract, it could be 18. We like to make it a year at least, just because of all of the work that has to go into hosting the auction, doing all of those things. But we've had 6-month contracts for municipalities that have a higher threshold for, starting the program, restarting the program, ending a program. But the average, I would say, is probably 14 months.
I don't have any questions, but what's the next steps for us?
Sure, Committeeman, I could speak to that. So on the agenda tonight is an ordinance that would authorize the establishment of the Government Energy Aggregation Program. That would provide the go-ahead. The committee actually adopted a resolution at the tail end of last year that kind of started put the wheels in motion for this, but the ordinance would actually allow the township to be eligible to participate in the program, and then it'll allow the township to work with the consortium, the Sustainable Monmouth Group, to get the bid documents together and what have you. And I would note that in the ordinance, it explicitly provides that, effectively nothing is happening until there's a further action of the governing body. So the bids will come back, and it has to be reviewed and determined that there's a substantial savings to Holmdel ratepayers, and then the committee would then have to take a further action. So this starts that process.
I just have one question. So how much time do you have from when you get a bid, from when there would, we would be in action, to get the contracts in place?
Same day. So the auction happens and we receive the bids back. We'll review all of those bids with the participating municipalities. So Holmdel would be on that call. Red Bank would obviously be on the call as lead agent. They would sort of make a decision, roughly, to make an award or not make an award. You cannot sign any agreements until this body votes to sign those agreements.
But just to clarify, it would be as soon as you vote to go into the agreement, then it would start. Or were you looking from?
And that price would be locked in, correct?
That price is locked in.
That was, I guess, my question. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
so oddly, you would be locking in a price that starts in March in September. Yep, and it holds.
We take public or no? Yeah, that's fine. You can come up to the microphone. They'll lack a microphone. Come up to the podium. Want to share it? You share one or grab Ben's?
Take Ben's and.
Hi, Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. Miss, sorry, I didn't do my homework. I wasn't prepared for this, but I have a utility background and I study these things at the consumer level since. Switching at the consumer level has really not been worth it for a while. NRG, I laugh every time I get an NRG energy offer, for an example. So I guess with all due respect, where are you coming from? How did we get here? Because, so how do we get here?
Yeah, you got here because Sustainable Monmouth Alliance was started, so it's a cooperative.
Who started that?
Red Bank and the 7 participating towns.
So we were approached by Red Bank for this? Okay. And what sort of savings were we suggested to get? I know it changes every year. I know there's auctions. What sort of savings?
We average 11%.
11%.
Average. But some, again, depending on load factor, and you know this better than anybody, depending on an aggregate load factor. Some co-ops do better than others. Also depends on the price that we receive on the day of auction. You know that you could hold an auction in the morning and an auction in the afternoon and not get the same pricing. So it all depends on what day we go out, when we hit the market, and sort of where the BGS rate starts to fall out, throughout that term.
So the 11% is based on a normal, not a very renewable.
Correct.
Mix,
the 11% is based on standard RPS minimum. Correct. It's going to be different. Again, if you're looking for class 1 PJM, you're not going to have that delta between.
Okay, from your experience, how many of the residents opt out?
Of a regular program, 20%.
20%
right off the bat, and then we lose another 10% due to either people get behind in their billing, we can't keep the consolidated billing, people move.
Okay.
So over time, attrition happens.
And you're paid a consulting fee based
from the supplier once there's a contract in place. Yes.
Okay, so you're paid by the suppliers?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Once a contract's in place.
Okay.
And that price was in the response to the RFP, so that's public information.
And the motivation for, like, the motivation to start a cooperative in a given reason, is it the renewable desire? What is it exactly?
I believe for Sustainable Monmouth, it was the additional renewable. That was the impetus. A lot of green committees, green teams, Sustainable Jersey's, been out there. And listen, we do have to do something about the environmental impact of what we're doing. So I think that was part of it, but also the ability or the potential to save money while achieving that additional renewable, I think was sort of what drove the group to form the co-op.
Okay.
And just to add to that, due to the size of many municipalities in New Jersey, going out on your own as a municipality isn't necessarily financially beneficial. Holmdel alone going out would not get the same rates as we do with 8 other communities or potentially
I'm
more
totally
other
aware of that. I
communities.
guess my biggest
So I
question-
think the reason, to that point, the reason that Red Bank reached out to other towns to participate was to get a better rate overall.
And you think Red Bank's biggest catalyst was the renewable, since you suggested
Oh,
that?
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Looking at their ordinance, holy moly, it was absolutely
Okay.
their impetus, yeah. And again, I think at the initial meeting, there were 20 towns. And then it just sort of condensed down to 8 that were willing to go forward. Those other 7 are named in the RFP as potential.
Okay, and after a couple of auctions, if we think it's not worth it, we can just opt out as a town?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. My only comment is, I wish we would, I know no one's had the stomach to do this, but I wish we would do this for the garbage in town, because I see the trucks ripping up the roads all day long. 5, 6, how many, do we have 7 garbage companies? It's absurd. And I understand the politics, and I understand whoever makes that decision is going to take a hit, and people are going to accuse you of God knows what, but I wish we would do this for garbage. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for your presentation. Any other questions from the public?
Are we at 10? We're just,
Just on
The
the
presentation.
No, just presentation, yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Lisa. So first item on the agenda is approval of minutes, April 27, 2021, public session, May 11, 2021, public session. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes to April 27th. I abstained to May 11th. I was on vacation that.
Thank you. Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay, the minutes have been successfully passed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we roll to the public comment on agenda items, just want to address a specific item on tonight's agenda. We have on tonight's agenda resolutions 2021-167 and 2021-168, which would authorize the shared service agreement extensions with the Board of Education on both the school resource officer and special law enforcement officer class 3s, the latter of which expires on June 30th. As mayor, I am eager to extend these successful programs and provide police security and resources to our public schools. As outlined in these agreements, the township has offered to provide a cost sharing to defray the fiscal impact of these programs upon the Board of Education. To this end, the proposed Class 3 extension would have the township contribute a cost sharing starting at 10% per year and increasing to 50% per year in the last year of the 5-year agreement. Also, we propose to keep the school resource officer contribution flat at $50,000 per school year, fully aware that the township currently subsidizes the cost of salary and benefits for the position, and that subsidy will only increase in future years as salaries and benefits inevitably increase as well. Our counterparts at the Board of Education have asked us to table approval of these agreements, even though one lapsed and the other is about to. I'm happy to honor the request. However, I must note that the Board of Education needs to approve these shared services agreements in their next meeting on June 30th, and we will need to act at our July 13th, 2021 meeting in order for Holmdel Township Police Department to complete the necessary staffing over the summer for the start of the school year in September. I must also note that the township is open to discussing any pertinent details on the agreement with the school board. The township is not willing to go beyond the cost sharing that we have proposed under these agreements. As residents are aware, the Class 3 programs has been fully funded by the Board of Education with no net budgetary impact. That is because the Class 3 officers replaced salaried hall monitors that were employed by the school district whose positions were eliminated. While we're glad to contribute the cost of these programs, the school district must meaningfully share a financial burden for contracted township personnel to replace school district positions. The township cannot reasonably be asked to create an entitlement program, especially considering the disparity between the municipal and school budgets. With all that being said, do I have a motion to table resolutions 2021-167 and 2021-168?
Move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fratelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Thank you. So I'll be stricken from...
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay.
Forgot I'm voting. I'll now open up to public comment on tonight's agenda items. Agenda items on tonight's agenda only. Public comment on agenda items. You can come up to the microphone, state your name, address, and your question.
Hi, is this on?
It should be, yes.
Okay, I'm Bill Little, 8 Coventry Square. I was just curious on, I think it's the first agenda item, 2021-18, the cannabis thing.
Yep.
I'm just wondering when you get to that, if you could provide a little context or logic behind, the thinking that went into it, because I'm just curious, is it fear and loathing? Is it wait and see? Is it something to do with the art center? And, who knows? So, yeah, if you could just go over that a little bit.
I will do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, we will have a discussion on the cannabis tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Sokol, 6 Wild Hedge Lane, speaking on behalf of the school board as its vice president. First of all, thank you for once again helping the school board and the school district with the, I don't know if we call biannual, but every 2 years we do come to you to ask to take advantage of your bonding authority so that we're able to lease important equipment for the district, mainly computers. In response to our request for tabling, it's very simple. We didn't get this agreement sent to us until last week. We use a committee structure to review all shared services agreements. That process really would not start until this week. We will see if we can be able to meet the deadline that you've established, although to quote the eminent scholar Alice Cooper, school is out for summer, so the need of security officers is not as pressing as it might be at other parts of the year, but we will attempt to do the review, and we appreciate, as always, the cooperation of the township in meeting security needs within the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, public, on agenda items on tonight's agenda? None being seen, I'll close public comment on agenda items and move to consent agenda items 2021-154 through 2021-171 with 167 and 168 removed. Correct, Wendy? That's correct. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fratelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
The resolutions have been successfully passed, except for the 2 that were tabled, 167 and 168.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy. Next is ABC license renewal, Wendy.
That's correct.
Approval 2021-22 resolution 172, 178, 179, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. 120, 179, do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fratelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay. All the ABC licenses have been successfully approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Council, can you cover the direct appointment?
Sure. The mayor filed a direct appointment of Zachary Gilstein. I want to amplify the letter that was contained in the agenda. That appointment is both to a planning board seat and to an environmental commission seat. There's one particular seat in which the member sits on both bodies. We're going to clarify that letter to confirm that, but that appointment will be effective by the mayor's direct action in accordance with law.
Thank you, Counselor. Introduction of ordinances, Wendy, 2021-18.
Ordinance 2021-18 is an ordinance establishing regulations governing cannabis pursuant to PL 2021-C-16. Motion to adopt at first reading and publish in the Asbury Park Press and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
Before we vote on this, Council, you want to just touch on what this ordinance specifically addresses?
Sure. For the committee's benefit and for the residents, including the gentleman who made the comment earlier, as everyone's likely aware, the legislature passed a law earlier this year that legalized marijuana by the term of cannabis in the state of New Jersey. It's a very lengthy law, over 200 pages. And it contains some very specific provisions with respect to each municipality in New Jersey. Specifically, municipalities are tasked with determining what, if any, forms of licensed cannabis operators will be allowed to operate within the borders of their municipalities. And in order to effectively coerce the municipalities into acting and addressing this issue, if a municipality does not take formal action by municipal ordinance by a date in August, it will result in the automatic legalization of certain cannabis entities by virtue of automatic zoning contained in the state law for a period of 5 years until the municipality can address it again. So it's incumbent upon each municipality to review the law and to adopt an ordinance pursuant to the law regulating which entities, if any, it chooses to establish or legalize in its borders. Now, just by virtue of the adoption of an ordinance, if any class of entity is legalized, that does not mean that a cannabis entity will be established the next day in that town. There's a licensing procedure before the Cannabis Regulatory Board that is established by the law. They are still yet to establish their regulations, so there are a lot of question marks on some of the legal strictures out of Trenton. But in the interim, each town does have, it's incumbent upon them to act prior to this August deadline, or else these automatic zoning triggers go into effect, and that's the genesis of this ordinance.
So just to recap at a very high level, so this ordinance restricts the distribution, but allows it to be grown in town, correct, Councilor?
The current draft on the agenda, yes, Mayor, would prohibit all classes of marijuana, of licensed cannabis entities, except for cultivators, which would be allowed on certain properties within the township if the ordinance were adopted.
So any discussion from the Township Committee on this?
Yes, I'd just like to state that I'm opposed to this ordinance because I oppose both the retail sale and the growing of cannabis in town.
So, to be candid, I was also opposed to both the retail sales and the growing of cannabis. However, because of the need to get revenue, because we are going to be losing revenue shortly, we need to have the door open. In fact, my exact words were, keep the door a little ajar, because we need to have, as long as it's not a sale of cannabis, but it's a farm, and it's in a controlled situation, it's not hurting all the neighbors, and it's providing the town some revenue, we need to stay open to that possibility, simply because we have big shoes that are going to drop very soon in the form of entities who are now paying taxes leaving our town.
Any other?
I also was opposed to the retail sales, distribution sales of cannabis in Holmdel, and I was in favor of leaving the door open, as Committeeman Santana said, in regards to cultivating the possibility in the future, cultivating cannabis in our town in a controlled atmosphere.
Anything?
I agree with what everybody's already said. I'm against the retail sale of it, and I agree that we should continue to try to support our farmers.
Yeah, the challenge I have is I agree with 50%, right? So I'm against the distribution of marijuana in Holmdel. I'm also concerned about the growing of, because my understanding, although not in depth in this field, is that it's a environmentally controlled environment, right, where the buildings go up and it could be multi-story greenhouses, and I'm not sure they're going to fit in with the character of our town and the normal farming that takes place within town, like the Palma Farms, over on Centerville Road, which I think adds a character. I'm concerned this would detract from the character, so I am against it. And my thought would be to make a motion to restrict both the selling and the growing, cultivation of marijuana in Holmdel, and I'd like to see if I can get a second for that motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Gratelli?
I just would like a clarification on that, Greg. Could you please restate your motion and your thinking behind it for us?
To restrict the growing of marijuana and the distribution of marijuana in Holmdel.
You'd restrict the farming community from being able to harvest marijuana here, even though we wouldn't sell it here.
So what is your understanding of how marijuana is grown in this environment?
It's in a greenhouse.
Multi-story.
Well, we can, I don't know. We don't know that.
That's what I've seen in the picture I've
Yeah,
seen.
but we could probably do some restrictions to our zoning against that.
Yeah,
I just want to,
yeah.
Your motion is the first time I'm hearing it, so let's have a conversation. You want to restrict the farming community from being able to harvest marijuana?
In Holmdel, correct.
In Holmdel,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
So I'm a no to that motion.
Mr. Lucarelli?
So I have a question for Attorney Mike. So we still have the ability to restrict or regulate the zoning for how a cultivator license would be granted. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're obviously at the very beginning stages, committeemen. The ordinance that's on the agenda was based upon past guidance that was provided, and essentially the way we drafted it was we provided that cannabis cultivators are only permitted on land that's zoned for agriculture as a permitted use and satisfies the definition of a farm, which by our ordinance's definition, it's 5 acres. That said, I hear discussion about greenhouses and things of that nature. The committee can certainly delve into that level of detail of regulation. This ordinance, we did not do that because we didn't have that level of detail in our discussion. But if the committee wants to explore something that's a little more detailed, we could certainly explore that and codify that. Like any zoning ordinance, we could put this on the books. If someone came in for an application the next day, then this would be the applicable zoning. But also, it's important for us to get something on the books before the 180 days are up, because otherwise you're going to have this automatic provision trigger. But if we get something on the books and you guys want to change it at a later date, you certainly have that ability.
When's the 180 days expiring?
August
22nd, I think, right?
It's in the August 22nd.
Okay,
2/2.
thank you.
And just so everyone's aware, basically, it would, if we don't act, it would say that the growing, cultivating, manufacturing, selling, and reselling of cannabis is a permitted use in all industrial zones, and retail is a conditional use in all commercial and retail zones. So it's very pernicious.
For 5 years.
For 5 years.
So, I'm sorry, can we repeat the
motion?
Yeah.
Wendy?
Wait, no, we're doing the motion on the...
My interpretation, committeeman, of the motion that the mayor is offering is to have a ban on all forms of cannabis.
So I'm going to say no to his motion, and I'm going to continue with the ordinance as presented, as our conversations have been throughout.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Santana?
Yeah, so I'm going to say no as well, with the caveat being that we immediately address whatever restrictions we need to put in place to prevent any unsightly greenhouses or multi-story greenhouses or whatever the case may be. Whatever restrictions we need to have in place, we need to act on that right away so that it's manageable.
Just looking at the calendar, if the committee has those types of suggestions, committeemen, we certainly have the ability to work between this and the July meeting to get an ordinance drafted that kind of further restricts the cultivators to address aesthetic or other concerns. We could certainly loop in our planner and make the ordinance much stronger. And we would have the time to introduce it in July and do final adoption at the August meeting, but it would need to be done at those meetings, or else we got a
would not
problem
be
on our
able to
hands.
miss a meeting.
I'd encourage you to do that, Mike.
Could we do it as an amendment to this ordinance? Intro this ordinance, then an intro and amendment?
We could certainly if you want to introduce this ordinance by title, we could do that, but that's up to the committee's discretion, or if you want us to get this ironed out and come back with an introduction with something that kind of
Why don't we amend this ordinance and come back to the committee with the revised ordinance?
for final adoption.
I think we got to get it right. I think you got to go back to the drawing board.
My suggestion would be to intro the ordinance tonight, and then do a substantial amendment at the July meeting, and have another hearing on that substantial
Hold on.
amendment.
I heard, Mike, you said that if somebody were to show up and apply tomorrow, we have no protection.
Well, in truth, committeemen, that's not going to happen because there haven't been any licenses issued in Trenton or anything. I say that simply to, with the 180-day clock, I understand the administrator's certain concern of moving forward. That said, we do have enough time where if the committee wants us to come back with a document that everyone could be comfortable with, I think we certainly have the timing ability to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, I think our thinking is that this has to be done right. If we're going to allow something like this, it has to be done the way we all agree to it. So, yeah, I would like to see that. Thank you.
Certainly, I certainly have my takeaway marching orders from the committee's discussion if everyone's comfortable proceeding on that basis.
So I remain a yes on the mayor's motion and opposed to both retail and agricultural, as I have always been.
And Mayor Bontempo.
On my motion, I'm a yes.
Okay.
Okay. Michael, what's your takeaway from that?
Okay, so that motion fails.
So then, now, do we have a motion on, you want to adopt this motion tonight, Mike?
I think a motion to table the ordinance.
It's up to the committee. If the committee wants to get into this in any further depth, I'm going to recommend going into executive session. But otherwise, the typical options are before the committee of whether you want to move the ordinance as it's on the agenda, or if you'd like to table it and we can come back to you at the next meeting.
All right, so I'm going to defer to our administrator. How would you like to handle this, since you're going to do most of the work? I understand an introduction of an ordinance. By title is something we've done before. I just want to make sure we don't pigeonhole ourselves and have a problem. So, Sharon, what's your recommendation?
I think we can make a motion to table this ordinance until the next meeting, and we'll have a ordinance. I think we have enough feedback from the committee that the concerns are the zoning surrounding a potential growing of cannabis. So we will work with the planner. I will work with the attorney. We can present an updated ordinance at the next meeting.
Perfect.
Agreed.
Does that work?
Got it.
So we need a motion to table if that's the case.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Critelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay. That ordinance will be tabled for further discussion.
Got it. Next ordinance one is 2021-19.
Yes. Ordinance 2021-19 is a bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $2,811,000 for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Holmdel in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $2,670,450,000 bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriation. Motion to adopt on first reading and publish in the Asbury Park Press and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
Motion. For motion.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Critelli?
So for months, if not the entire COVID experience, we've been listening to members of the public come up from different user groups and kind of insist that we finally solve the multi-purpose field issue. And I see it's not on this capital budget. You can't speak now. I'll wave back to you. And I'm disappointed that we seem to be kicking the can down the road. Now, I get the fact that your committee is working on things, and we talked about it in executive session, and I appreciate all that. But I really think that if we're serious about supporting the youth in this town through a much-needed field, and we all sat through Mr. Santana's presentation on debt and the fact that we're not sure about pilot money, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think I asked Bill at the last meeting, let's look at what the pilot projections are. I really believe that we should actually immediately work towards funding some sort of recreation, or at least a set aside in the capital budget this year, so that we can meet the obligations and the requests of all the user groups. So without that, I am a no on the introduction of this ordinance.
Mr. Lucarelli?
I agree with everything that Mr. Critelli just said. I just don't know what the next step is, and I'd like to have further discussion on what that does if what a not supporting this motion, like what does that do?
I mean, we wouldn't be able to move forward with the items that are included on this agenda if we don't pass this ordinance.
So I'm going to vote yes, but again, I truly respect Committeeman Critelli's stance on this, and I do think we need to make more of an effort with the Rec Committee and on moving towards getting to a discussion about how we can get more funds directed to the Rec Committee. But for tonight, I'm a yes on this motion.
Mr. Santana?
I'm a yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
So ordinance 2021-19 will be published in the Asbury Park Press and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
Next is ordinance 2021-20, Wendy.
Ordinance 2021-20 is an ordinance authorizing establishment of government energy aggregation program. Motion to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Critelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-20 will be published in the Asbury Park Press, and the public hearing set for July 13th, 2021.
Next, 2021-21.
Ordinance 2021-21 is an ordinance authorizing the leasing of certain capital equipment by the Township of Holmdel, New Jersey, from the Monmouth County Improvement Authority, and the execution of a lease and agreement relating thereto. Motion to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
We have a motion. For a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Critelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Wendy, I'll recuse since I sit on the Monmouth County Improvement Authority Board.
Okay, so noted. Okay, so ordinance 2021-21 will be published in the Asbury Park Press, and the public hearing set for July 13th, 2021.
Next is 2021-22.
Ordinance 2021-22 is an ordinance authorizing the guarantee by the Township of Holmdel, New Jersey, or payment of principal and interest on the capital equipment lease revenue bonds, Series 2021, Holmdel Board of Education project of the Monmouth County Improvement Authority. Motion to adopt on first reading and publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
Do you have a motion?
Yes, motion.
Second. Do you have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Critelli?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Recuse for the same reason.
So motion, ordinance 2021-22 will be published set for public hearing and published in the Asbury Park Press for a hearing of July 13th, 2021.
Thank you, Wendy. 2021-23.
Ordinance 2021-23 is a salary ordinance for non-aligned employees. Motion to adopt on first reading and publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for July 13th, 2021.
Do you have a motion?
Move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Catali?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay. So 2021-23 will be published in the Asbury Park Press, and the hearing set for July 13th, 2021.
Thank you, Wendy. Department updates. CFO, can I start with you, Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let you know, we had a renewal of a bond anticipation note, $6,299,000. The winning bid came in at 0.238%.
Wow. So you got it for free?
Pretty much.
Okay. Anything else, Bill?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator, any updates from you?
I have no specific report, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you. Engineer, any update from you? Ben?
Nothing specific tonight, Mayor, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Counselor?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Township Committee. I don't have any formal report this evening, but I would like to offer a brief statement which I make with the consent of the subject employee. It was recently publicized that the Township Administrator, Sharon Roundtree, is being considered for a stipend position with the Borough of Red Bank. Under her employment contract with the Township of Holmdel, the Administrator is permitted to accept outside employment with the approval of the Township Committee, which shall not be unreasonably withheld. The Administrator previously discussed this Red Bank opportunity with each member of the Township Committee individually, as well as collectively in this evening's executive session. She has represented and confirmed to the governing body that the position would not interfere with any of her day-to-day management responsibilities or performance of duties to Holmdel, as required for any outside employment to be approved under the Administrator's contract. Accordingly, the Township Committee provided its approval. If the Administrator obtains this position as Township Attorney, I will follow the routine process of implementing a recusal for any matters before the Township of Holmdel involving the Borough of Red Bank. So I wanted to make that statement, Mayor. And then one housekeeping item. At the beginning of the year, the committee advertised 2 meetings for each month, but I know by tradition, typically we take a half vacation in July and August and not have a meeting at the latter portion of the month. So if the committee would like to continue in that vein, a motion would be appropriate to cancel the July 27th and August 24th meetings.
You have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Roll call, Wendy?
Mr. Catali?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Counselor. Anything else?
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Start boards and committees. Start my far left, Committeeman Curtelli.
No report, Mayor.
Committeeman Lucarelli.
I know, I have to share a mic because you guys are hogging an extra one down there.
She wants to be in stereo.
You're very important, Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon needs 2 mics. That's okay. No, thank you, Mayor. I have no updates tonight.
Thank you. Committeeman Santana.
I have no updates, but I have a question for our CFO, if you don't mind. During the presentation, our financial advisors told us that we were going to be somewhere between $5.5 to $6.5 million in annual debt service costs, depending on our capital improvement projects. When could we get that finalized? I mean, do you know how long? Is it towards the end of the year? When do we roughly know how much it's going to be?
Well, we anticipate having the note sale in February of the serial bond sale in 2022. So that's why we're rolling this note. We just had over through February.
Yeah, so February. Okay.
Yeah, so by February, we're going to put the whole package together.
That includes the 13 million in
Yes.
bands.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So February is when we'll.
Yeah, well, we'll put it together towards the beginning of the year. We'll have an official statement and everything will be done by then.
Anything else, Committeeman?
None.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I just have one report, and that's basically to say thank you to the Traffic and Bike Safety Committee and to Sharon and her staff for submitting the necessary materials for a grant application with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Bikeway Grant. I'd also like to thank CELU and Preserve Holmdel for their letters of support for said grant. This grant will allow connectivity from Holmdel High School and SATS, paying attention, Mr. Vice President of the Board of Ed, all the way through to village school. So students could bike to school, and it would provide a pathway for residents to bike, walk, ride their horses. So we're taking a stab at trying to acquire funding for this, and we'll see how we do. But thank you for all those members of the community and the staff who put effort into making this happen.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. As everyone is evidently clear tonight, Town Hall is open, back in business, and zoning and planning boards will start meeting in person as well for upcoming meetings over the next week or two. So full participation back to where we were 15, 16 months ago. So staff has done a great job. We're at a meeting with the chief police, first aid, fire. All our emergency services did an amazing job in the town over the last umpteen months, and look for some recognition coming out for them in the near future at a township committee meeting for all their effort and hard work, because there were some challenging times that we went through as a town, but it was the core infrastructure we have in place that really did an amazing job and kept our residents, I think, in good position and kept everybody safe. So that's it. I will then open up for any public comment. When you come up for public comment, again, please state your name, address, 3-minute, and please address it right here to me at the podium. Wendy, you set? Okay, good, sir.
How you doing? Kevin Buchanan, 26 Randall Road.
You get that? You got that?
I'm obviously
Okay.
heavily involved with the Towns Lacrosse program. We just went through another season, close to 300 boys and girls. We have subpar facilities. We've been saying it over and over and over again. I appreciate you bringing that up. We're talking about $2.8 million capital expenditures. I don't know what that's for. We greatly need this field, and I'm asking what's going on with the Recreation Committee, because it's always in committee, it's in committee, it's in committee, and nothing happens. Is there going to be a recommendation from the committee? Are they going to say what the town knows we need, or are we just going to keep kicking it back to committee?
State all your questions, and we'll kind of answer.
That's my question.
Okay.
Where are we? What is the committee doing? And how are we going to get this done?
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. I will be happy to answer that question, as I've been reporting out at every meeting where...
Not tonight. We skipped over the rec committee.
Yes. I'm speaking now. Thank you. Okay. As I have been reporting out, the rec committee did not convene until this year. We've had several meetings. We've actually increased the number of meetings we're having to be able to address this. The committee has asked for all of the prior plans and information, which we have not yet received. My understanding is we should have that information before our next meeting. We've also asked for every organization to give us summary of their needs. We've received that. We're going to review that along with all prior plans, and the committee is going to make a recommendation. And just so you know, I am just a liaison to the committee. The committee is working on this, and in their words, they want to get it right this time because it hasn't been done right before. And so I understand your frustration, but we have to look at the whole picture and all the needs, and that's what the committee is attempting to do. We're meeting monthly to try to accomplish this. We're waiting for the rest of the information. It took some time to get all that information provided to the committee, and we will have that at our next meeting.
When is that next meeting?
Is it on the website?
They are all publicly advertised. I don't know off the top of my head, but we do
on the website, right?
advertise them.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be there.
All right. Thank you. We have some public.
Eileen Bramonti, 30 Falcon Ridge Circle. I'm wondering if the meetings are going to be continued to be Zoomed. In light of transparency, it would be great if you guys could consider doing it Zoom so people can continue to participate in these meetings. I'm not sure why you wouldn't continue that. I think it's awesome to have the townspeople participating. And by not having it, you're eliminating a whole lot of people from participating. People that can't get here, people that don't have rides.
You talk about our meetings or the rec meetings?
No, the township meetings.
Well, I think we're streaming it right now. Is that correct? Yeah. it's
All of our
streamed.
meetings are streamed on Facebook and
Why is
YouTube
it, there
Live.
was no link tonight
No.
next to the agenda?
It's live streamed.
It's live streams.
Okay, but where's the link?
No, hold on.
Says-
So it's being live streamed right now,
Okay.
but they cannot participate via Zoom or virtually rather,
Why not?
because we don't have the technology. I wanted it too. We don't have the technology to both live stream, have the Zoom, and have an in-person meeting simultaneously. So there's an issue with I wanted it. There was a technology issue. So since we adopted an ordinance to live stream, we're doing it today. We'll continue to do it. But if they want to participate, they have to come to town hall.
So you're eliminating all those people who don't have rides to get here. All the people we say we're
Which,
supporting, right?
this is,
Seniors.
we're going back to pre-COVID status, and this is exactly what it was. In fact, we made an improvement. I should say, starting January 2020, we went to where we would live stream and have an in-person meeting. We're just going back to that status.
Well, I hope that we can quickly get that rectified. I think it's an easy give to the townspeople who pay taxes here, so. Just
I would happily go back to Zoom meetings only. I did not want to go back to in-person meetings. I am here
Oh, it
because,
should be both, I mean.
well, I would prefer to do Zoom meetings only, but I'm here in in-person meetings because I lost that vote.
Okay, well, hopefully you guys can get that figured out. I don't think it's that.
So while we're talking about that, help me understand what is the investment to be able to do Zoom meetings while we're sitting here? It kind of makes a lot of sense.
It's not as easy to do as you
So
think.
first of all, if you want to have a Zoom
So that's
meeting.
why I'm asking the question. I didn't say it was easy. I'd like to know what the process is and what the cost is. Since we've introduced the capital budget, maybe we'll add it to the capital in next month so that we can do Zoom meetings. So we have a resident who's asked a question. We had a resident email us today, someone who's frequently emailing us. So what is the answer? What's the cost? Can we do it? Let's talk about it.
So first of all, if we want to have a Zoom meeting, we all have to be equipped with iPads that have a webcam, that has a camera. That's number one. Number two, it's going to cause a lot of disturbance. You can't speak into the mic and speak into this. There's some technology issues that has to be handled. And until they figure out the technology, we cannot do that in person with the mic and laptops. So once you're able to figure all that out, sure, I wanted it. In fact, when I spoke to Mike about this, I initially asked for this exact thing. So I don't think it's possible right now, but maybe they can figure it out at a later time.
You don't need individual cameras. You have one main camera that can see you all.
Not for a Zoom. Zoom, you need to have a camera individually, because if I were to log in, then I would have to have a Zoom link available. Because I'd want to see, I'd want to hear
That's
who
not
the participants are.
We have Zoom meetings on the board, and we don't have to each have a camera,
please.
so.
Okay.
I think it seems something like really easy you guys could get done. so,
Okay, thank
for
you.
the townspeople and all.
Happy to go back to Zoom.
Yeah, Mike.
I'm only going to do one thing, now I'm at three. First of all, Prakash, I
Just state your name and
Mike
address.
Sokol, 6 Wild Hedge Lane, speaking as a resident, not as a member of the school board. Prakash, I invite you to come to the school board meeting, because we do it every single school board meeting. It's one camera, simple setup, but even if it isn't, if you guys are seriously interested in doing it, take advantage of talking to our AV people. We've been doing it for 6 months, so I'm sure there's a solution for you, and that would be my recommendation. Second, recently I was in conversation with Comcast because I was interested in seeing if they had expanded the download speeds of their services, and apparently they have. And in the conversation I had with the person in customer support, I said, well, is it available in Holmdel? And they said, not yet, but there's some, apparently Holmdel is looking into it, or there was some discussion. Now, Sharon and her department very kindly, I called her up, find out what's going on. They don't know anything. But what I would ask is, as you know, can we reach out to Comcast and find out what this new faster speed connection is? More and more people in the town are relying on Comcast, for an example, for home remote working. It'd be great if we could get the fastest speeds possible if it's being rolled out in Monmouth County. So if the township could look into that, that would be terrific. Last thing I want to say is, so as I get ready to finish my last term on the school board, next year will be my 12th year. Basically, I remember when I first came on the school board, everyone on this body, every single person who was on this body in 2010 said the same thing to me. Said, we have to do something to reduce taxes. That was the main message. And the first year I was on the board, we didn't have a tax increase. And we're not going to have a tax increase this year. It's really great. But one of the things I would really love before I end this is have this discussion about the pilot, this discussion between two governing bodies who should be really basically working together for the betterment of taxpayers. It doesn't really matter if you're paying a township tax, you're paying school tax. It's still the same money coming out of your wallet. And I realize it's a challenge. We wouldn't be doing what we do if it was all easy. We do it because it's a challenge. We're here to try to represent the interests of our residents and our voters. So as we look at this pilot, I really wish we could just step back, stop worrying about who's supposed to have which piece, what's fair, what's unfair. It's not important. What's important is intelligent people getting together in a room, having dialogue, and figuring out a way that we can transfer some of that money to pay for costs that the school district has no control over. There are a lot of costs we have that are just standard costs, that they could be absorbed by a commercial tax rateable. I can assure you, certainly from my perspective and from the perspective of school board members I talk to, we would transfer that money back as savings to residents. So I really would like us to start having conversation. Let's not focus so much on
Thanks, Mike.
where it's
Mike,
going to.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mike, I just want to say thank you for being cordial and a gentleman and speaking to us about that. Thank you.
Ron, go on.
Ron Emma, 32 Ladwood Drive. Just two quick questions. Further to Mike's comment about the pilot program, do we have a date when Bellworks is going to give us the audited financial revenue statement? Number one. And number two, Prakash, you mentioned something about the shoe dropping about revenues. Can you elaborate on that, or is that still secret? But something big is happening that's going to affect our revenues. That's what you're hinting at. Yes?
So
Those are my two.
So yeah, okay. Let's do the first. Sean, do you know when we're going to get the audited? July?
I believe July 30th is the deadline
Is the
that they have to
deadline.
provide it to
They
us
have
by.
to by that date. Okay.
July 30th, 31 days?
That's the extended, right? So it can't go past that, is that correct? Wasn't it already extended once, or?
That is an extension, yes.
So, yeah, good.
Correct. And the answer to your second question is yes. And I can't talk about it right now.
Do you have a timetable on when that might become public?
About a year. Yeah, and more importantly, I'm in agreement with everybody about sharing our revenues in whatever's in excess of our needs. But the problem is we not only have substantial increases to our debt costs, but we also see a big drop in our revenue coming down the pike. So any sharing of costs has to be done after we are certain about what our revenues are going to be, and we need to wait a little.
One could only guess, being a tenant of Bellworks, that the revenue is going to be trending downward, certainly not upward, with the tenant situation at Bellworks. So that has to be taken into consideration when you're talking about pilot money as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay.
Prakash, you suggested Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. Mr. Santana, you suggested a 1 year for this potential shoe to drop. Can we market in advance this property, or like how does the situation work?
I can't answer that comment.
Yeah, you answer your questions. And then we'll...
My guess is it could be Vonage, but I have no idea. Mr. Collins,
and please don't give me the same answer, but is there any update on New Jersey Natural Gas? I mean, what's going
I'm
on?
going to disappoint you.
I mean, what's going on? It's like a year later. I mean,
We haven't received any update from our special counsel, which would make me believe that the ALJ is still writing his decision. And the judge has the ability to take his time and request extensions, and I think with COVID, probably even further latitude. Your testimony, I think it was submitted to the judge probably third quarter of last year, so we're probably 9 months, I would imagine.
It'll be a year. I want that job.
okay, thanks. I'm done.
Anybody else in the public? None being seen, I'll close public comment. Go ahead, Sean.
I just wanted to, the next rec committee meeting is Monday, July 12th at 7:30 PM, and it will be in the community center.
So day before our next township committee meeting, correct? Okay.
July 12th,
The day before TC meeting. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for coming out.